Oh, it's that one. Hello, hello. I am starting a QA here while I'm tuning the car. I want to say hi to everybody. Honestly, I want to say hi to everybody, see what everybody's doing, and I wanted to answer questions and talk about some stuff. My wrong microphone's working though, so I gotta adjust that for some reason. Yeah, that's not working. Hmm. Check, check. Hello. Hey, looks like you finally made one. I'm trying to get my microphone working here, but for some reason this one's not working on this. This is a different laptop than usual. This is a different one than I usually use. So right now it's using that one, and I'm trying to get to use the other one, but I'm not seeing an option for it, which is really weird. And I don't have an option for it. That's weird. Let me do the old school way. Old school, Windows X. System. Alright, I think I got it. Let's see. Check, check, check. Hello, hello. Let's turn that up. Like that. Like that. Check, check, check. Still that one. Alright, I guess we're using that one. Anyways, you're watching my stream for the 20x stream, right. Yeah, that was that was an interesting one, right? Trying to make a 20x. I forgot to turn the fans on. Give me a second. All right. Whew. You know, it's cold today. It still isn't working. It's so weird. All right. I guess this isn't gonna work. I don't know why. Like I said, I don't use this one. I don't use this laptop very often, but my other one took a dump, so all my settings are gone, and as such, you're not gonna get to see what I'm tuning. But I do have the Shock Dyno software up, so I wanted to talk a smidge about that. If anybody has questions about Shock Dyno stuff, I've recently been doing a lot more time on it. So Miss Justin says, "Hey Dom, you see the Moto IQ video about why EGs blew up a few weeks ago? It seemed pretty standard until you said the IAG has cast EG blocks in the works. Thought you'd be interested." Yeah, I was involved in that project back in 2019. I think it was 2019. I was a part of that project, and COVID hit, and a bunch of stuff happened that kind of made it, that basically canceled the project for the most part. I worked with Dart, give them all kinds of ideas and information and stuff about it, shortcomings of the blocks, what they needed, told them about the PCV, told them about the cooling, told them about the mains, told them about the deck height, told them about oiling, told them about, we went through pretty much all the information with Dart on it. And we had worked out some stuff, and there were some things that I was really excited about, and there were some things that I wasn't. They had some ideas that I did not like, but the foundry said, yeah, we can't do that. So then I was like, yay, we're not doing the stuff that they don't like. So, or things that I don't like, because they can't do them anyway. So that was good. And then the project just got canceled. And then IAG said, no. Like I think about a year or two later, IAG was like, we need to keep doing this, and they gave them lots of money. And that was really the difference, right? Like, I didn't have the money to give them the shit. Like, I couldn't afford that. But IAG could, so IAG fronted a ton of the money for R&D and all that kind of stuff, and to finish up the project and get the tooling and stuff. So, in the future they're going to have a cast block, which is really awesome for the EJ crowd, as long as a few things happen. And that is that the mains get strengthened enough, and I have my doubts as to whether that's going to be the case. I guess that's the biggest one, really. It's just the mains getting strengthened enough. I don't think they're going to be able to do it with the way that they're, at least what Dart told me back when I was involved in it. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to get strong enough. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. I haven't seen it since then. Oh, this car has no gas. Sweet. I haven't seen it since all that happened, so no idea. I have no idea if it's gonna have that or not. It's gonna have really cool things. I think it's gonna come with half-inch head studs, maybe larger. That's gonna be really sweet. It's gonna be already threaded and reinforced for bigger head studs. They're gonna scallop around the cylinders and stuff and increase the cooling volume around the cylinders through the block. That's really cool. They're going to pin things, reinforce things, stiffen things around the mains especially. But whether or not they use a hard enough material or enough reinforcing behind the mains to keep them from egg shaping and getting compressed, which is what really kills them, is yet to be seen. I have no idea what they're doing there. I talked to them about making the PCV better, like on the back. Like, a lot of people don't realize the back of the engine, that's an air oil separator built into the EJ. That's an air oil separator, and its job is to do what we add on all the time, air oil separators, right? So the thing is that it gets overwhelmed really easy. So I was sharing with Dart some information about that, what it would take to. I'm gonna, there you go. Sorry, I forget it's there sometimes. Um, about what it would take to get that to work. So, a lot of stuff happened back in 2019, um, and like I said, they, um, they abandoned it for a short period of time, and then IAG came in and said, no, we got to keep going with this, and so they brought the money with them, I guess, something along those lines, and that's some of that's hearsay, some of that's fact. So yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I'm really excited for there to be an engine. I'm curious how much of my brain power is in it, or if they started from scratch, or if they kept going from where Dart left off. I'm kind of curious if my ideas are in this engine, um, which would be good for the customer. It'd be shitty for me though, because like I spent time and effort and years researching this stuff, and figuring out where the weak links are, and then I'm part of this project and gets canceled, and somebody else comes in and buys it, and I get nothing for it. That's gonna suck. I'm not gonna lie. When I found out that they had done that, I had really, really, I had a bad day. To be honest with you, I was super bummed. I felt betrayed, because my ideas get stolen a lot, and my IP gets taken from me a lot, and I felt like that this may be another time that happens to me, But like I said, I don't know. I don't want to speculate as to what stuff is in the engine. I have no idea, if it was clean slate from when they came in, or if it was a continuation, or what. I don't know. Um, so, um, obviously, that's I don't know. That's this industry, man. This industry is full of that, and it really sucks. I try really hard to make everything better and share what I can and teach what I can and all of that. But what that really means in the end, I don't get much for it, other than a little bit of satisfaction. But and then right now with the economy being shitty, anytime I get screwed out of something that could potentially be financially beneficial sucks. Just because things are so rough right now, anyways. But anyways, yeah, I know about it. I know about it. So, I mean, it'll absolutely be better than OEM. So, when I was involved in it, it was going to be a 356 hipcast block. Now, 356 by itself is not super super dense, um, but supposedly it's better than the factory blocks are. And then the hip process where they like vacuum it out and force feed the aluminum is supposed to make it like much more dense, than it would be if it was just a free pour. So it also helps with, oh man, what's the term called? I can't remember. But if you look at casting and you're trying to pour into a mold and there's a corner, right, and it pours over and seals the corner off, then you're kind of screwed. Or it pours in there and that bubble gets trapped somewhere in there too, and that'd be really bad as well, right? You don't want bubbles causing a porous casting. So by vacuuming it down to where there's basically no voids in there, there's no molecules in there anymore. It is just a void, but it's a complete void. That helps, because then you're not trying to get um, actual physical air out of it, right? So there's a lot less voids and that kind of stuff. So it should be more dense. It should be heavier than the stock one. It should be stronger than the stock one. And again, like the head's getting held on better, by having better reinforced head bolts is going to be really good. So yeah, I'm excited to see what they've come up with, and obviously curious about how much of it's mine and how much of it is all theirs. So, but like I said, that is this industry, and it has been for a while. It's been very cutthroat in some ways, or I mean, shit, my cooling mod, right? Like I came out with that, I got so much friction, so much resistance from that, and now there's like 8 companies that make it, right? RCM, Torque Solutions, VEMS, where the fuck those guys are. Um, and then Joe Blow, like, I make it in my backyard with the brass fitting, right? There's a bunch of other, cooling mods out there, right? And I'm the fucking dude who made it. And everyone was telling me that it was garbage. Next thing you know, the biggest guys in the game have them. Shoot, the +2 rods, right? Like, that wasn't even a thing until 2000 and, what was it, 6 or 7 when I started putting them in engines, and then 8 or 9 when I started offering to the public, right? Longer rods and stuff. That wasn't a thing. And I got a ton of friction on that. Ton of friction on the longer rods. Now they're all longer. Like, every engine out there's a longer rod pretty much, you know? So, like, I've always been there, helping out people and making the stuff better. And then, of course, there's other stuff that happened, like Cosworth was making torque plates wrong. I called up and said, yo, guys, these are not made correctly for a Subaru. And I gave them some measurements, and they're like, holy crap, we're way off. I'm like, yeah, so they were doing, the torque plates are being built wrong. K1 was building the rods wrong. I started getting these dimensions on these rods. I'm like, this isn't right. This is not the right size for this engine. The wrist pin stuff was wrong. The clearance was wrong on that, and something else was wrong. That was a long time ago. It was like 2007 maybe. They fixed their stuff. Manley's products with their crankshafts and other things were wrong. And I don't know if you guys in around launch remember that. There was a big deal when I created a post on Naziok reviewing Manley products and telling, basically it was a scathing review of most of their stuff, saying what was wrong with them. And that, man, I got flamed like crazy for that. Everyone was pissed off at me and all that kind of stuff. But you know what happened? The owner of Manley asked me to come to SEMA and talk to him. And then he apologized and then asked for my help in redesigning the Subaru line. Right? Like, that's Manley. Now, did I get anything for it? They made my rods for me for a handful of years, which I'm very grateful for. And I have a good relationship with Manley, right? But, like, I helped them redesign their product line and that kind of stuff. The camshafts, the GSC, right? GSC has a billet cam now because I ratted them out. Because all the cam failures were happening. I made a big fucking post on Naziok, and everyone was telling me what I'm talking about. I don't know how to build engines, I don't know whatever, and everyone's bagging on me. And then everybody else started having cam failures too, and they're like, holy crap, what's going on? And so I ratted out Kelford and GSC about it, and made enemies at GSC and Kelford initially. And then GSC went to the billets to make sure they were hard enough so they weren't getting messed up. They still have failures now because going to a hard cam material didn't address what the problem was, and I'm not going to go over the problem because I don't like them that much. But so they didn't really get to address the problem very well or fix it. But Kelford, they worked on it, and then of course I have my modification of the cams I do that actually addresses what's wrong with them. But Kelford worked on it too, and now I have a good relationship with Kelford because they make my cams for me. I still bring them back and modify them, but all of that. So, anyways, the point is that I've always been here, and I will always be here trying to make the products better. And unfortunately, it's typically at my expense in the long run. So we'll see. We will see. See how it goes. Now I gotta check engine light. Why is there check engine light? I didn't even do anything. I didn't even do anything. Oh, I knew that. Okay. System too rich. Yeah, no shit. They just put new injectors in it, and I haven't got a chance to adjust tune yet. So there we go. They went from 850s to 1050s. Whoever the person that works at the what's the best way to support you? Patreon? I don't have a Patreon. I know that YouTube has a donation thing, and I get those. Those donations come to me, and they don't take anything off of that. But honestly, like the way that's the most helpful is either buying stuff or my Discord subscription. Like I have a Discord subscription that you can get, and you get something for it. So you don't even have to just give me money. You can get something in the back. And it's an annual thing, and you can come in and meet the guys. Like Dino at the top there, he's in there, and the crew, and see, I teach about tuning, a lot of tuning stuff. I give guys shit, they give me shit. You know, we have a good time. We try and keep pretty positive. There's a couple channels that can get a little heated sometimes. A little drama happens on occasion. But even so, when there is drama, like everyone is mostly respectful for each other. There's one guy now that have gone at it a little bit, and there's been some disrespect there, some. But other than that, it's a very positive atmosphere, and it's not very toxic at all. And it's not like Facebook and that kind of shit. And we're all there because we like cars, and we're all there for the truth, and that's really important. You know, there's a lot of guys that show up there their first time being there, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this guy made 600 horsepower," you know, blah blah, and everyone's like, "No," and then everyone that's been there for a while is like, "Wrong," right? Because they know that the internet dynos are bullshit, and that a 60-pound turbo isn't making 700 wheel because that's not how airflow works, you know, especially not on an EJ. So then those guys get to be educated and get to learn stuff, right? And I have a whole tuning section, and I go over lessons on ABCS, cam timing, right? Ignition timing, what it really is. Like, what is ignition timing really? Idle control, turbo systems. The turbo system one is a little weak because I haven't spent a lot of time with individual lessons, but I have videos that I link you that you can watch where I've described stuff in the videos, and then other post white papers about stuff. There's like 8 lesson modules right now. I need to do more. That's absolutely the case. I need to do more. But yeah, help me out there. Like I said, in-channel donations are awesome. I appreciate those very much. But I'd rather give you something else too, you know. And even if you don't want to go to Discord, at least you have the ability to do it, and say hi. So I appreciate that. So thank you very much. I appreciate your appreciation. That's kind of like, you know, that's all I have left is to do it, just to get a good thank you every now and then. It feels really good, honestly, to just get the thank you, because man, there's a lot of people out there that just want to have their hands out, and that's rough. That's rough when you're trying to do cool stuff. Where did I put my Cobb? Here it is. ID injector data. I'm just trying to get my injector data in here all the way for this car. I knew the scaling being 2745 for the pressure I have it at, but I forgot the latency values, and I definitely did not put in the low pulse width yet. So I'll put those in here. Get this car to run better. So no, I appreciate the kind words, and I definitely, it's weird, right? Like, I'm competitive, but I'm also a team player, and the team can be shop to shop. I don't want it to be shop to shop though, right? I want the team to be all of us, like all of us Subaru enthusiasts, and I often try and do things to have that be our team, to be the Subaru enthusiasts, be the team. But there are places that get threatened by that, and there are places that will do their best to either spread lies, misinformation, or even try and harm the community by being thieves. There's so many thieves out there. Actually, it's kind of crazy. I've witnessed so much stuff lately with just blatant dishonesty and people getting scammed. It drives me nuts. I mean, it's a lot like I get a phone call, right? Like every day, somebody in some call center or somebody somewhere is going to do me a favor, right? Like they're calling me to do me a favor. And I tell them every time they call me, I was like, motherfucker, like, nobody's calling me to do me a favor. Like, get out of here with that shit. And I had one guy go, well, I am. I was like, no, you're not. You're not calling me to do you a favor. If you're calling me to do you a favor, or if you were calling me to do me a favor, it would not involve me sending you money. You know, like, just get the fuck out of here. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who have kind of weaseled their way in the industry and trying to convince people that, I'm just trying to do you a favor, man. I'm just going to do this or whatever. And it's a scam. It's a bummer. Okay. It's a bummer. Have you guys seen the Nintendo Super Mario movie? The one that came out a little while ago? I really enjoyed that. well, I know that's a random thing to say, but I really enjoyed that movie. I watched it on the airplane, and I think I laughed like through most of it, and that's partially because I was alive, I was around, I was playing video games when that came out. I mean, actually, Super Mario Brothers is the reason why I'm a gamer, right? Like that is the original game for me. I mean, there was some before that. That was what was it called? Super Pitfall, I think it was on what was that machine called? Not Commodore 64, unless it was that. No, there's something else. ColecoVision. I don't know. There was some old fucking video games. But we had Ataris and that kind of stuff, and I was always fascinated by that. I had a Texas Instruments like gaming system as a kid too, like really, really pre Nintendo thing. But the Nintendo was really like that was when I became the gamer. So seeing that movie and the things that happened in that movie, it was just um, really funny because there's a lot of Easter eggs in there. Um, if you if you've been around long enough to know, like Super Mario kind of Easter egg stuff. There's a lot of that in there. And that's really, it was cute. It was cute. I enjoyed it. I gotta flash this thing. I gotta put the green connectors together, so that tells you one thing. It's a '06 STI. So yeah, I really enjoyed that movie. It was good. It was cute. It was a good time. Discord is really helpful. Thank you. I'm glad. Oh yeah, I'm in an '06 STI. We definitely appreciate the combination of passion, integrity, and ingenuity. It's hard to find. Makes it a bit bummed to hear about stuff like this. Cast easier project where you get info and don't get much of credit or compensation. I'm curious if there's any contracts involved offering compensation for your what? Yeah. The Atari. I had Pong on the Atari. That's true. Okay, what's that one? 6%. You hear the Deafy scream. We got Deafy Gauge in here. I can't see him. This button? This button? I can't see it. It's too dark in here. I'm just being deafened. That's all I know. Ah! Wait, it's one of these. I don't know. Oh, time's up. Come on, flashy, flashy. So to answer your question, no, there's never any contracts because I'm an idiot and I never do that. And I should, right? I should always get NDAs and that kind of stuff. But I'm like, I always get so excited just to help or to be part of stuff, right? I forget, or I feel like, oh, I know these guys, they're super cool, they're gonna treat me well, and then I'm wrong, So it's I mean, it's my own fault largely, I guess, to make myself vulnerable to that. But I don't know, like if you don't make yourself vulnerable, like, are you really honest? I don't know. That's probably a more life thing than just like the car industry, but I think relationships, kind of go along that way. It's like if you don't make yourself vulnerable, you're not showing the other person that you're vested in it at all. You're not showing the person who you are. You're not showing that kind of thing. So um, I tend to make myself vulnerable because I'm honest and I want there to be something in that relationship. And in a lot of cases, especially in this day and age, there's a lot of people that they're not there for the relationship. They're there for what they get out of it. They're there for the data. They're there for the benefits. They're there for the discounts. They're there for smiling and saying nice things about you until they get their tune and then they're gone because they got what they wanted, or their car part or whatever it is. And it's definitely worse now than it's been in the past. But I think that's a factor of our government and our media, reality TV, and all that other shit. So, yeah, um, society is changing. Wait a second. Put this behind me. I just want to have a good time. Have a good time. Make a bunch of friends. Have a good time with my friends. play with cars, set records, or work really hard trying to set records, I think it's just a lot of fun, honestly. Let's see, Atari, fucking A, like I said, yeah, Pong, and what was the other big, what did I play with Atari when we had one? Was it Galaga or something? I can't remember anymore. Yeah, and then Trackmania, Counter Strike. Oh, or your upbringing, right? Yeah, which was very, very recently, right? Trackmania, Counter Strike. Yeah, Counter Strike for me, that's a recent game, in my life. Even though I've been playing it for 10 years, 12 years, whatever it's been. But you know, I had I had the original Nintendo, and there was Legend of Zelda, and things oscillating quite a bit. I don't like it. I have hiccups. Sorry, I ate too much food for lunch. I smoked a big old pork shoulder, and I brought a bunch for the guys here, and I ate too much myself. Let's go 0. Let's see if that helps. I'm not online. So I clicked online. Let's get online. Blaster Master, or that one. I used to love that game. That game was so much fun. Um, all the Mario's. 3, I really enjoyed 3. We get the raccoon suit and all that stuff. I played 2 till my freaking eyes fell out of my head. Like, um, and those are like the ones at the end of the regular Nintendo era. But yeah, Contra, all the Konami games. Um, what was the one? Dragon Quest? Is that what it's called? Dragon's Quest? It was one of those top-down RPGs where you run around and build your characters up and fight things and stuff. I don't know what those are called. I don't remember the correct name for those. Currently setting my logging list. See, I don't want that. This is one of those guys that had to put all this stuff back on to get it to work with Cobb Greenspeed stuff. Which legally is the right way to go. It's just rough. You got no 6 STI you've owned forever, and then you want to do you want to update some stuff, and because you want to update some stuff, now you got to reinstall stuff that you took out forever ago, and total bummer for the guy, because that shit's expensive. They put all this stuff in, all the labor and stuff. So I feel bad. I feel bad for the guy, but that's what it is. That's the way the law is, and the way Cobb made it for everybody. I had a bad oscillation though, which is really weird. I might have a bad O2 sensor. His fuel pressure is fine, but AFR is just bouncing back and forth. And 1050s with a Cobb SF should be rock steady, right? There's no challenge there, and it is all over the place. To the point of misfire, even it's going around, just back and forth, and the airflow is changing a little bit, like you'd expect it to do when the engine RPM is changing, but we're talking 3.9 to 4.2 volts, grams per second. So it's right in the right range, and that's definitely not 50% fueling error, right? That's not even close. So, and fuel pressure, look at fuel pressure, they got a DEFI, whatever fucking gauges here, and that's pretty steady. It's oscillating a tiny bit, and so, but not enough to cause a 50% change in fueling. So, I'm kind of leaning towards the Bad O2 sensor. Yeah, the wideband on the dash does not read nearly what that primary one is reading. Let's see. I'm gonna push it open loop really quick and then see if open loop where the air fuel sits. I think it's got a bad O2 sensor. It oscillates like a mother, and there's no reason for it to. I understand why it's oscillating so bad. You see the air fuel ratio goes 22 to 11, and even here it only shows 13 to 15. This is going 20 to 11, and it's throwing big corrections in it.
It does have an old MAF too.
Pressure steady. MAF is good. MAF is fine. Like at least at this part, it's fine. I can do this real quick. Yeah, it's an old MAF. Yeah, that's definitely an old MAF. But I don't think the MAF is causing the oscillation. Like this right here, I should have got quite a bit more airflow out of it than that. But I'm concerned that the sensor's bad. Is it still the old sensor, or did you get that sensor in?
So one that was tuned on before, same with the O2. So I mean, I can tell them I need new sensors because they're both old.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird though. Usually I can force them open loop just by adding to the primary loop table, but this one's not even doing that. It's weird. But yeah, it's got a big oscillation. I'm gonna heat it up and do some runs and see if it changes. But everything else is steady. Like mass airflow wiggles a smidge, but that's not a 50% fueling wiggle, right? And this correction is going positive 15. It's going negative 15.
It's all over the place.
Yeah.
Alright, I'll tool chase this and get them both on the way just so we have them.
Thank you. Oh, Jesus Christ. Wow, that is all over the freaking place. This might not even be fucking drivable. Yeah, if I get out of closed loop, plenty of fuel, looks good. But in closed loop, man, it is oscillating like crazy. It got worse as I added load until I went to open loop. Wow, the correction going from negative 25 to positive 25, just bouncing back and forth. I'm gonna double check my injector data, but I mean, these are 1050s. They're pretty standard. Oh, look at that. It settled out some. I wonder if the heat helped it. Oh, there it is. Yeah, see now it's misfiring. It's always something. It's always something. Yeah, Justin, I get you. One of my students always says, what's the term they use? Main character. I think main character syndrome. Like they're the main character in the movie that is the world or whatever, basically. And like basically the whole revolves around them, right? That's kind of the thing. So, anyways, while I let this car freak itself out for a little while, let's look at this shock dyno software. I got this sitting on the screen. This is the CTW software called Probe. It's what they use for their shock dyno. It's obviously not hooked up to the shock dyno right now. That's why I got a big red X in the top right here, and this is grayed out because I can't control the dyno that I'm not connected to. Also, my hasp key is not present, as it says here on the right, so I'm in demo mode, which I have no idea how much stuff works and does not work in this mode. But what I got here is I have the OEM Honda Talon two-seater, the Talon R two-seater. So the R is their wider sportier race version of the Talon. It's got larger 2.5-inch bodied shocks at all four corners, and it's, as you see here, it's got some serious damping going on. So a lot of side-by-sides, as you may know, are really prone to like bucking, they call it, where the back end just like springs up in the air really bad, and will nosedive or whatever. And when you look at this damping here, you go, well, fuck, no wonder. Like, it's damped in such a way that it is no wonder that it does that. It's also extremely harsh to ride on the road. What's weird about the R, though, is that the front is actually damped pretty soft, but the back is still crazy hard. Whereas the X, for example, the front and the back are both crazy hard. It's actually balanced. It's just rigid front and rear. But the R is less rigid in the front. It's less rigid in the rear, too. But the R two-seater is a lighter, smaller machine than the four-seater. But you can see here that even at 20 inches per second, this top line here, this light green, is the rear shock on the hard setting on the rear of the machine. But at 20 inches per second, it's getting 933 pounds of force opposing the movement of the shock. So that's the damping force that we're seeing there. And that's a lot. Goddamn hiccups. 20 inches per second, that's not that fast. But that's a lot of force. Whereas on the front, the same machine on the hard setting, it's only 300. Now you see that's 3 times the damping force in the back, right? So you must think, oh, well, it's got to weigh 3 times as much in the back, right? But it does. I mean, it's a rear biased, vehicle for sure. But the front is 400 and the back is 500 pounds on the tire, and even less than that, the shock. So, well, I shouldn't say that correctly. It's the motion ratio doubles the shock rate, but you take off 130 pounds of the tire, the wheel, the hub, and half the control arms, and then you're down to 300 something, or on one and 200 something on the other. Then you double it on the shock because it's got a 0.48 motion ratio at extension and 6.2 at compression, and it's on its arc. So, anyways, not to get too technical on suspension stuff, that's not that technical of a concept, but if you've never heard it before, it might come as a bit of a surprise. So, so these machines, we're seeing, only 100 pounds more on the rear than the front, and yet we have 600 pounds more damping on the rear than the front. And so if you can think about what happened if you hit a bump when you're going down the road, the front might suck it up and the back will bounce you. And you go do a little hop or a little jump or a bump that would kick the front end up a little bit, the front suspension is going to compress some of it, so you're going to lose a lot of that upwards momentum that you would get because it absorbs. But the back, however, doesn't absorb any of it, right? It just goes boom and throws you up. And so the machines tend to buck really hard. And it's really interesting that they do it so bad, because you can fix it. You can make them land on their tail by over fixing it with the way you do the springs and the damping and everything. So I don't know why it's this way. I've heard things where they still have to undergo tests like the Moose test and things like that, and they can't roll over in certain situations, and because of that it makes them, valves really hard, and rigid and not appropriate. That's what I hear. But I don't know. That's hearsay stuff. The other thing that's really weird about this is the spring rates front to rear are set for a weird frequency. They're not balanced for stability like you would expect something like this to be balanced for stability, and it's just weird. They actually have a lower spring rate in the back on the two until you get the stack up, but when you're on the both springs in the back, it's actually a lower rate than the front, which is totally out of whack, and it makes the ride weird. Granted, what they did is if they went heavier on the damping, they went lighter on the spring, right? That's the idea. But the problem is that the frequency now of the suspension frequency is thrown off in that scenario, so it's just weird. And when you get on rough roads, these things ride really weird. with some changing in the damping and spring rates, you can make them really damn good. Honestly, you can make them really freaking good. You can make them really good for either racing, or really good for trails, or really good for road. It's hard to make them really good at all of that because those require different things. But you can make them, you can get them to be almost whatever you want. It's really good. So, and then with the 3 adjustments, this is just hard and soft in here, the medium's in the middle. That's a decent amount of adjustment. I mean, you can see we got 900 on hard, 930 and 740, so 200-pound difference. And you'll see the rebound though is exactly the same on the settings because all that adjustment does is compression. And these rebounds are actually really high as well. Well, the front rebound's a little high. The rear rebound's not terrible. But in relation to the compression, it's not the right balance. Fix this balance some, get this down some, closer to the rebound, soften this one up on the rebound, and it'll ride way better, be more comfortable, and follow the road better. Right now, with this stiff of damping, the tire can hit a bump and just skip across. And I mean, you can get sideways in them really easy. They're fun to get sideways in, and that's how it's valved. It's valved to get sideways. It's valved to slip in the rear on purpose, really, is what we're seeing. It's almost like it's valved to slip in the rear to minimize it biting on you and potentially picking up. At least that's how it seems, because I can do a bunch to it and it's faster in some ways over certain surfaces, bumpy surfaces. Over smooth surfaces, that's decent. The front needs work. They both need a little bit of work, but the front needs the most work. If it's going to be an airborne vehicle, we'll leave this damping in the back. In fact, we'll probably lower comp a smidge, may raise rebound a little bit in the back, and then add a bunch of comp to the front, and then change the spring rate on it a little bit. If it's going to spend a lot of time in the air, because you got to catch it come out of the air, but you also need it to take off correctly, right? Again, to get rid of that buck, it's similar with jumping. If you think if this compression is too low in the back and it does suck it up, then what it'll do is when it gets in the air, it throws the tire back down. And anytime you throw something when you're in the air, right, you react. So it throws the tire back down, the back of the vehicle comes back up. So you can keep it from compressing, which is kind of what they did here. But if you keep from compressing too much, well, you keep from compressing, which reduces what you throw back, right? But what this also means, if the front compresses too much, then the back ends up going anyways. So you can lower the compression in the back, raise or keep the rebound a bit, and then the tire will come up, but it'll rebound slow, and it won't throw it and kick the back end up. And then you have a car that will launch more evenly. So it's about those ratios, and it's about those ratios as they relate to the weight of the machine and the geometry of the machine. So there's a lot of cool stuff that we get to do with this, and I've been having a lot of fun with the software, learning about it. If we go right here, what we're doing is this has got the ability to average some things out. This is the actual, like, as it came off the machine. This is with all of its imperfect little bits in here. We can see, that there was this much hysteresis in the shock. And so if we go to force versus displacement here, we can see that as the shock was moving up, how much force there was and what it was doing. So what's really interesting is right here, see this spot? As it hits where it's supposed to be the highest, the lowest, when it stops moving, there should not be any force on the shock. But you see here there is. It's pushing back at us right here on this one. And that is due to the amount of damping provided by the shaft. But if I want to get rid of that, what I can do is open my little bypass there in the canister and put it in softer mode. And look at that, a bunch of it goes away. It goes away because now I'm not getting as much damping on the shaft. In fact, you get a very, very symmetrical graph here. Look how symmetrical that is. It's pretty good. But then you have this a little too soft, and you're putting a little too much into the canister, and you can see that it falls off quicker all of a sudden now. I slow down, it goes, and there's nothing anymore. So there's a balance in there. have medium on here? Do I have front medium? Front hard, front soft. There it is, front medium. Let's see, medium. There we go. And then let's go back to, I don't want you. I want you. That one. So you see the hard comes in, it peaks over here, and even though the shock is still moving upwards, the force is coming the other direction. Weird, right? It keeps doing that. That's a bugginess with the software. I don't know why it does that. I want to look at this one and not that one. And then for some reason, when you change something, it'll mess them up. So you see here, here's on hard. Get this big hysteresis in here. But then on medium and soft, very, very little to hysteresis at all, right? And that's because in the canister, as the shaft is moving up, and I'm pushing, so I guess I show you this. So the shaft is moving up. I'm compressing it at the fastest point. That's 90 degrees on my arm, and then the arm's still pushing up and slowing down as it approaches TDC. Okay, it hits TDC, and there's no more velocity. It's zero, but there's still force. The shock is still pushing down on us. And it's not supposed to. It's supposed to be, only give you force when it's moving, kind of thing. But this is shaft force. This is excessive shaft force from it. And that's due to the fact that there's a stack that goes into the reservoir. And when the shaft enters the chamber, it displaces fluid that's got to go somewhere, otherwise it would just explode. So it has to go into the reservoir. There's a stack in the reservoir to control how much goes in there and how much force it takes to go in there. Well, this here shows us about how much force it takes to get past that stack. Now, when you go to medium and soft, you open a little port in there and you bypass that stack some. You have a bleed port across it. And so here you can see that as it slows down, coming off of, as it's coming towards TDC, it's slowing down. I'm able to bypass that stack. I don't have as much residual pressure in the canister trying to push, or in the main cylinder trying to push into the canister. It's able to go in a lot easier. So the hysteresis goes away instantly. Now, every shock's going to have some hysteresis there. Like, that's just going to be the case if you have a completely sealed shim stack into the canister. So that's going to happen. What the problems come in is when that's excessive. And that's quite a bit. That's a little more than you might want. And you could work to get that down some. But I've had some shocks that are up here, then that's a problem. That's a big problem. And this force versus displacement graph peaks right here, and it comes back like this huge swoop through here, way out of place. And so like what you see here, right, the shock is slowing down as it's approaching the top. So this is the highest velocity. When you get to a shaft force on like a Walker Evans shock, it still has a huge steep slope going through here. The shock is slowing down, and it's still producing more and more force, even though it's slowing down, because it's force based on the position of the shaft instead of based on the speed of the shaft. And so you get positional rebound force, which in some ways is really cool, but in when it comes to a consistent ride, it's not really cool. It's not ideal at all. So, anyways, I'm trying to get my stuff here. You should probably see with this tune a little bit. So, doing a little bit of a pull, heating it up, reduced the oscillation some, but it's still doing it. So, I'm going to set a few things back to stock because this had some really shitty injectors in it a long time ago. It had the old Power Enterprise side feeds with the parent side feed rails and all that stuff in it. And so, like, you really got to fight to make those things work. And so, because of that, I made probably a few more changes to wall wetting than I might want to have done. So I'm going to go and make sure that put those back to where they were. Double check my injector data. It looks fine. On my closed loop target, I should probably check that, because Sometimes you gotta really mess with that to get it to work right. Yeah. So that's a little bit off. I added fuel to closed loop target just to try and get it to idle. And usually I do that on big injectors, on pump gas. You got to add to your target because injectors aren't open long enough to do anything good, right? But when you got 1050s, the IE 1050, it's a great injector. It's not a problem. So that shouldn't be an issue at all. But what else we got? And that's it. It's only an 06. There's only so many tables. Yeah, there's only so many tables to mess with. I'm just gonna race you. I sure do. Doing green connectors one-handed with your left hand when you're right-handed is manual dexterity I didn't wish I needed. Did I say that right? And I wish I didn't need. There you go. My shifter's kind of sloppy. 60 needs a little more love. They've been doing good though. I'm not dogging on the owners at all. They've been doing a lot of stuff to the car and addressing things, and that's great. There's just a few more things that need some more love, and it'll be really good. The fire's right up. Cranking is good. I mean, it started instantly. This speed isn't anywhere near close. What the hell? The speedo says 68 miles an hour. Dyno reads the roller speed pretty accurately, right? Because it's a hard roller. You can't get that too wrong. Dyno says 60. This thing says 68. Man, I don't know what they're running for tires on this thing, but it seems too small. Well, they're 225 17s, which I think is stock size, but they look small. There's very little sidewall on these 17s. I think these tires are not sized appropriately for what they're supposed to be. Because that's way off. Usually the speedometer's like, out on the highway, up to 10% off, which, would be 66. Subaru got sued for it, and they went into 5%. But that was 68 on the dyno. That's crazy. It was way off. The GRs are much closer because the GR happened after they got sued. What a racket that was. Can you imagine? Someone got a raise. I mean, it's dishonest as shit. And I'm really confused why Subaru did it. But they admitted that they did it. That the speedometers were so far off. 10%. They admitted to 5. But they were 10%. And the car goes out of warranty faster. The advertised fuel economy is better. Right? There's a bunch of stuff that having the speedometer read faster does for you. And they did it. They did that shit. I fucked that up, didn't I? Something's not right there. Something is not right. Timing goes really low at peak boost, which is great because I'm at 21.5 pounds. And it goes down to 6.5, right? That's very low timing. And the load is peaking at 3.37 right there. It seems a smidge low. Air fuel indicated is lean right there. I should have got out of it sooner. I didn't. Good things have forced internals, right? I mean, it's on ethanol too, right? So that's no timing for ethanol. That's like nothing. But actually, this is coming up. Oh, that's the other car I just tuned. No, no ethanol. So yeah, so it's lean. It's lean. He said it had a bad math. He was not. He was not joking. It's really weird how much some far off speed is good. Yeah, it is. I remember when I was growing up, um, the what was it? The 2001 Porsche 911 Turbo came out, and they were like, "Oh my god, it's so crazy!" Right? Like they were loving this car because back then that was a fucking machine, right? And it was Motor Trend or one of those car magazines was doing a thing about it, and they reviewed it and a bunch of other cars and stuff. But the wildly optimistic speedometer award went to the Porsche 911, and it was like at 100 and I think it read like 180 when the car was doing like 150. It was something ridiculous from Porsche. Man, they call it the wildly optimistic speedometer award. Went to the Porsche 911. It was something ridiculous. It was like 25 miles an hour faster than it was actually going, something like that. In there, they're still beautiful as always, Paul. Yeah. So, anyways. Hmm. Fuel pressure is good. Just want to check fuel pressure, make sure that fuel pressure was good. It is. Fuel pressure is good. It's just not getting enough fuel. I mean, it was 11.3. Well, before that was 11.8, which is not enough fuel, but 11.3. Now, needs a mass airflow sensor and needs mass airflow sensor and needs an O2 sensor. I don't think I can help it after this. Like, there's nothing else I can do until those are fixed. I need the correct amount of measured air going into the engine. Can't have that thing. That is really upsetting. It's just a bummer to have an old car with all these sensor issues. Pain in the ass. That's the time to start earlier. This is way too high of a start speed for this car, but since I wasn't too concerned about it because I was doing some different stuff, let's change it to this pole now. We'll load it a little sooner. Wideband on that pole got to 9:1 because I went back to speed density on it. But in math, it's lean as shit. And this is on the Cobb SF, which is a known injector calibration. So it's either got a massive freight turbo leak or that math is just old, like you said. And he said it was old, so. And of course, there's this O2 sensor issue. So to show how bad it is, I guess I can't show you, just tell you. The O2 sensor, once I get in a load, reads 20:1 AFR. And if you know anything about NSTI, the factory O2 sensor never reads 20:1 when you're actually 9:1. Like I was in that last poll, I was 9:1. It reads rich, not lean. So it is fucked. It's fucked. Alright, so that's enough testing on that shit. Go back to this and stop the tune for the day because there's nothing I can do about that. This needs to be fixed. Disconnect, yes. Alright, so enough of that shit. That's it. Don't make any questions? Man, I was going to do a whole Q&A today. If there's any questions about stuff, I was going to answer some questions. Anybody in here order an oil cap? I don't know if you saw my mostly oil caps. They're pretty funny. They say mostly oil on it instead of oil, and they say ignore owner's manual. And then it's got a different weight of oil on it that's not in the owner's manual. So like 0W40 or 5W40 on the cap. So they're funny. I also have regular ones that just say oil, and then say, get it on tune.com, GT Race Tech on them. But what's really good about them is that they're not the big factory ones with all the nubs on them. You got to grab like this and try and open. Especially you got like a top or a front mount intercooler pipe right there. You can't grab the damn thing because the pipe's in the way. Man, I hated that. So it's got a vertical section just pop open like the FAs come with, which is awesome. Which is why I made them, really, because I got sick and tired of working on GRs that have the factory oil cap, and you can't get the oil cap off because the front mount's going on the top of the damn thing, or next to it, I should say, but just nothing that pinches out. It's just a pain in the ass. I hate it. So I saw the FA oil cap, and I go, yeah, that's what I want. I want an FA oil cap. So they fit. You can put one on. You can buy them for next to nothing if you want, and they're at the wrong angle, by 30 degrees or so. But, they're handy. But then I said, but who wants to buy another factory oil cap, right? Like, let's make something cute. So I had a friend, I don't remember the story, but I jokingly, he somehow got grease into his oil system. I don't recall how it happened. But so I was working on making his oil cap, and so I put on there, no grease, right, on there as a joke, and posted it and showed it to him. He was like, oh, you're a dick, but that's funny. And then it hit me. I should just put mostly oil on there as a joke because, us, like we got ethanol in there. We got lots of blow by. We got, a bunch of stuff going on in these damn Subarus. Condensation, bearing particulate, that kind of stuff. So it's, I just thought mostly oil was funny. So that's why I got the most oil. But then I opened it up to be able to get custom stuff done. That's not happening anymore because that's holy shit expensive and that kind of stuff. And but so they say most oil, and I thought it was pretty clever, and they're cool, and they're functional. Right, the biggest thing for me is to make stuff that's functional, stuff that improves or fixes something, like the battery tie downs and the oil caps, where you can actually open the damn things with a front mount intercooler on there, all that stuff. So anyways, I designed these caps. I got prototypes made. The prototypes are sweet, but they're really expensive to make. So I changed the design a little bit to lower the cost some. And then we get them, the blank section made. I go have it all anodized. I bring it back so we can engrave it so that the engraving just really pops. And somebody in the machine shop fucked up and did them all upside down. And it sucks because I went and asked the dude that's running the machine, hey, how do you make sure that the right side's up on this? Oh, I got it marked. Okay, cool. I mean, the other 5 were right. They were perfect. So I had no reason to second guess him when he said he had it marked. And I get them all done. I take it to the shop and I screw into a car to show the guys. Guys, check out these oil caps. Some. Fuck. Most of the oil is upside down. So I had myself a good panic attack because I got, many thousands of dollars and all these fucking oil caps. So many oil caps and so much money. And they're all upside down. They're all fucking upside down. I found that out the same day I found out about the IAG block you asked about earlier. And I found that out the same day that I tried to put the cabinets together that I ordered that took 75 days longer to get here than they were supposed to in my shop. They showed up damaged and they wouldn't take them back or anything, all that shit. And I found out that they were missing all the main parts to hold them together. So that day was a hell of a day. So I went home, drank a lot, took some measurements, figured out what I could do to the caps. So I took them back to the machine shop, and they just finished fixing them today. So now they're all going to say mostly oil. They're going to be in the right direction. So that's a relief for me and them because they don't want to pay for rebuilding all my oil caps. and I don't want my customers wait longer for these damn things. So, anyways, I got to go pick them up tomorrow. They just called me and said they're done. So I'll start shipping out oil caps here tomorrow. So that's cool. What are your thoughts on injector timing? Is it worth spending time on? I'm playing with an NA EZ30R on ethanol. Injector timing is far more critical on larger injectors than it is on smaller injectors. Injector timing is interesting when you get. So let's think inside the engine for a second, right? When you are at idle, for example, and you have a vacuum in your manifold, and we'll say they're usually idle, 9.5 to 10 pounds of vacuum. Perfect vacuum is 14 and change, right? So you've only got 30% of the atmosphere in your manifold. And what that means is that all those little molecules are spaced out, right? They're far apart. And in between them is nothingness, right? It's a vacuum. There's nothing in there. So you've got 30% atmosphere and 60-something% or 70% nothing. Well, when the fuel enters the airstream and it's going to absorb heat, which you want it to do, right? It's going to atomize and it's going to mix with the incoming airstream to get fed into the cylinder. There's not a lot of molecules in there for the fuel to bang up against. And when I say bang up against, I mean literally the molecules got to be close enough to exchange energy with each other. So there's not a lot of molecules in there for the fuel to run into. Now, if I have a really small injector that fires over a long period of time, more air passes by during the firing of that injector. So I maximize the amount of time that the injector has to be exposed to air and to moving molecules and stuff. Now, if I just put a big ass injector and I go really quick, and there's like 4 air molecules going by, and my entire fuel charge has gone in, and it's hit a couple molecules of air, and the rest is vacuum, where's it going to go? Is it going to go right to the side of the port, or somewhere else, or the valve, or something like that? Because it's not going to turn into a vapor. It's going to stay liquid droplets, right? I want it to absorb energy from the intake charge and get into the intake charge, suspend in the intake charge, get into the engine. So if I have small injectors, it's not as challenging because there's a lot more time for that mist to happen. There's things going on, and the droplets are smaller to begin with. Smaller injectors can have more atomizing holes in it. The fuel that enters the airstream is going to be more atomized from the get-go than it would be on a bigger injector. So I have all kinds of things working in my favor with a small injector. But then I got a big injector, and that all changes. Now I got big chunks of fuel, I got no air, and I got no time for them to interface with each other. And I have no time for the fuel to absorb heat, no time for it to atomize and become a vapor and get charged into the cylinder homogeneously, right? A nice homogeneous charge in there. Like, I don't get any of that. I get fuel pooling up on the walls. I get drips. I get, pockets of fuel. The engine doesn't idle at 1470 more. It's got to idle at 13 to 1 or whatever to get it to not misfire ever, and all that. So what can I do to improve my charge quality? Well, I put the fuel in earlier. It's really all I can do. I put the fuel in earlier to give it more time to suck heat off the back of the valve, to suck heat off the port, and give it time to vaporize versus just going, there you go, and then drop in the cylinder, right? So injector timing does that. Injector timing gives us more time with the intake valve shut, in this case, for the injector to fire the fuel on the valve, draw heat off the valve, vaporize or atomize the fuel, then the valve opens and sucks in what's hopefully a more homogeneous mixture in the cylinder because I had better vaporized or atomized fuel when the valve opened. So injector timing is quite important on bigger injectors, and it's important that you fire it earlier You will notice a difference in idle quality. You will notice a difference in what's called the flammability window, and that is what's the range of AFRs will this engine run in that condition. So at idle with hardly any air and stuff in the cylinder, if I give the fuel more time to vaporize, then that window is wider, which means I might be able to run it at stoichiometric fueling at idle. Now, I might be able to do it because I've given it enough time to atomize and become burnable, right, once it gets in the cylinder. If it's too big and I just throw this big drop of fuel in there and it doesn't get mixed, it doesn't get atomized, it isn't a homogeneous charge, then what happens is I have pockets of fuel and pockets of no fuel and just pockets of air. And if I'm lucky enough that the spark plug ignites some of it, then the flame's going to start. But remember, there's a huge vacuum in there. There's a ton of void. There's a ton of space in that cylinder. And in order for flame to propagate, the molecules of fuel and air have to be close enough together that one, the fuel and the air, which are the reactants in the cylinder, have to be close enough that when I add energy to them via spark or heat from the combustion and pressure, that they react and oxidize, and we get a combustion event. If they're spread out, then you can't get any energy transfer, right? You might have some at the spark plug. High energy spark, good. That lights off almost anything. Then I got the flame kernel, this tiny little spot that's burning, this little pocket of ignition in here, of combustion happening in the center, and then it's got to spread out. And if I got a bunch of fuel on one side and some air over here, and they haven't mixed with each other, and they're not close enough for the energy in there to make them react with each other, it's going to misfire. Or you're only going to burn some of it. And so what you have to do is you have to make it richer. You got to get more fuel in there. So you know you have fuel pockets everywhere, so that whatever fuel is in there can actually interact with air. Or you get a better homogenized mixture with more atomization, and that's done with more time for that fuel to absorb heat. So what are my thoughts on injector timing? About 20 minutes. I don't know how long I spent on that. But yes, it's worth spending time on if you have a big enough injector that you need it. But the main benefit of injector timing is really only going to be at very low pulse widths. At longer pulse widths and higher RPM, it's not going to affect it really. You're not going to get big changes in power by messing with injector timing. You would have to have some really fucked up injectors to gain power and stuff with injector timing. Which you can have is better idle quality for sure for those reasons, right? One, I already have a narrow flammability window, and I have poor atomization and low charge density, and none of those are really good, to run an engine. So at idle, you definitely get improved idle quality. But if you have big cams and a lot of overlap, then you might want to wait longer on injecting the fuel. You pretty much, how do I say this? You can't wait too long, okay? You can't wait too long. If you wait too long, then you, how do I say this? Okay, so during overlap, intake and exhaust open at the same time, okay? Now, if I have a turbocharged car, I have a lot of overlap. The exhaust pressure is going to be higher than intake pressure. Not a problem. If I inject early, it's not going to matter because I'm trapping exhaust gas in there. During overlap, the pressure from the exhaust is going to try and backfeed anyways. I'm not going to take fuel and stick it in the exhaust. Okay. There's one narrow spot though in a turbocharged car where the intake pressure is more than the exhaust. It's not a very wide spot. It's a very narrow spot. And on the factory tune for the STI, if you look at injector timing, you see where that is because they retarded the injector timing during that point, only to minimize how much fuel gets shot through the cylinder and out the exhaust and burns in the exhaust. Big overlap cars where they have higher pressure in the intake than they do in the exhaust, you can get a problem with indicated air fuel not being the air fuel in the engine because you've taken fuel and gone through the engine and into the exhaust. If you got a big blower car with a big cam, that's a potential consideration. That's a concern on a big blower car. And a lot of guys will smoke their blower cars and not understand why. Why? But it said it was 11 to 1. That should be plenty of fuel. Yeah, well, that's because a lot of it wasn't actually in the engine. That was in the exhaust burning post engine, right? And or vice versa, something else, right? So it could have been too lean because they let's see how I work that out. I guess the explanation's not that important in that regard, but you short circuit the fuel through the engine and the exhaust and upset what your indications are, and that's why air fuel ratio isn't always the best indication. It's never the best indication, right? A 5-gas analyzer would tell you that. It would tell you what ratios of products you got, right? Remember I said reactants? You have the reactants, the air, and the fuel. Then you have the energy that you need to light that off. Then you have the products, which is what's produced at the end. Well, that products skews based on the conditions in the cylinder. Richer, leaner, higher compression, lower compression, right? All those things will, more time after time, they will skew based on cylinder conditions. And so if you had a bunch of burn post-cylinder, that would skew those readings to say, oh, we're getting burned that's not happening in the cylinder, right? It's going to get more, I don't know which one's going to be. I couldn't tell you. Probably hydrocarbons. Honestly, let's see, leaner. But it's probably rich because it's in the exhaust side, so it's probably a rich burn. So it'll probably get more CO2 then. I don't know. I haven't spent a lot of time with a 5-gas analyzer. I just know that I wish I had one because those products will skew based on the condition of the cylinder. So it is important a little bit. And in blower cars or in turbocharged cars in that one area, it can be beneficial. It can be very important. But outside of that, high-end horsepower, exhaust side, more intake power, it doesn't fucking matter, man. It could be 100, it could be 400. The fact is that injector gets open so long anyways. It's almost open all the time. And it has to be open for way longer than the valve is open, right? If you think about that, injector duty cycle, 100% means that injector is sprayed for 720 degrees of rotation. But that valve is not open for 720 degrees. That valve is for 200 something degrees, right? So you got to think about that. If I have 25% duty, well, 25% duty is going to be 180 degrees. So 25% duty, I could technically get all of my intake, I can get all of my fuel sprayed in when the intake valve is open, right? But at 50% duty, that's 360 degrees. That means I'm spraying half of my fuel charge when the intake valve is shut. At 85% duty or 100% duty, now I'm almost full 720 degrees rotation. The intake valve is shut for most of that, 570 degrees of it, almost, right? So when you get into high horsepower, it doesn't matter. The injector is open way longer than the intake valve is, and you're going to get it on one side or the other, right? You're going to get that fuel charge either before or after the valve is open or shut, and it's going to be there. So it's not as important there. Obviously, you don't want to run a zero, or a really late charge, because what will happen is you will get to an overlap where you'll have a short induction event and not enough fuel. Oh yeah, my car's not. No, it needs a mass airflow sensor and O2 sensor. It's untunable right now. I told Tanner he said he was going to want it. Okay. That's a half hour ago. Yeah, so it was so bad that in booth it was 20 to 1. Yeah, when this is 9. That's bad. So it's way off. Yeah. And then the mass airflow sensor is reading way too low voltage. If I do it in math mode, then it runs 12 to 1's almost 12 to 1 AFR. If I do it in speed distance, it's 9 to 1. So, okay. On 5 videos currently. Okay, so yeah, leave it factory. Leave it factory. Anywhere from 360 to 440 is good for injector timing for most things. And that's it. You know, if you're on like 1050s or 1300s, you're gonna bring it closer to 400 or 440, especially at idle. And then as it goes up in RPM, you might bring it to 360 or something, or leave it up to 400, and just it really doesn't do much up top, not a whole lot. If you were to move it too far, you can create an issue, like I said, because eventually what will happen is you'll have one charge where you're spraying after the valve's shut, and you were waiting for fuel, so you get one charge where it was lean. But are you going to notice one singular misfire at 4,000 RPM? Probably not. It won't be good for it, you know. So typically, yeah, you leave it at the 440 before or 400 before or whatever unit you have in there. Paul, did you take a look at my coilovers yet? No. I didn't take them apart yet. No. I still don't have an adapter yet to get them on the shock dyno. So I'm waiting on that. And I was waiting to get the shock dyno in its new home with the new cabinet system that I ordered that was supposed to be here 75 days ago, or 75 days before it got here. And then, as you may have heard, didn't have the parts I even needed to put the fucking thing together. So I got the big old shipping D right in the A. So thanks for the explanation applying this to my 1650C. There you go. That's good. Yeah. Bias my tune right now. Well, I hope that helps. It's one of the few things. It's one of the things that's not thoroughly understood in this tuning world. But a lot of it, you just got to kind of break it down. You know, when I first started doing engine stuff, it was I'm putting air fuel in there, I'm blowing it up. You know, that's what I thought. Oh, and the more timing, the better. That's what I thought. And all those things are wrong. Nothing I said there was actually right, except for the part where I said I put air and fuel in there. And that's it. So, as you get more acquainted with engines and you start breaking down the individual pieces, a lot of stuff really start to come together more than you would ever thought. And more than a lot of these tuners out here would have ever thought. Because I know in 2009, I was tuning a fuck like a cars. I tuned, this isn't our laptop, but my laptop had, back in 2006 and 7, it was 483 tunes in 2006 and 456 tunes in 2007, right? Almost one, I was doing almost one every weekday and 3 or 4 on the weekends. And sometimes 2 on weekdays. That's right. Yeah. So I would do one Monday, one Tuesday, one Wednesday, 1 or 2 on Thursday, and almost 2 every Friday, and then 3 on Saturdays. Right? I was tuning a lot of cars then, and I found my old planner, the actual paper planner, where I was writing down all my tune stuff, and it's just tunes all the way down. So I was tuning hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cars every year. Almost all Subarus, the rest were Evos, and a couple Chevys. And in 2009, I thought I knew everything. In 2009 and a half, I found out I didn't know shit. And I knew more then than a lot of guys that do the job now, right? And I realized I didn't know shit. And a lot of that is thanks to Injector Dynamics and Paul Yaw, and a few other people that have been there throughout my life. But I had this one day where I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like something just clicked, right? And then all of a sudden, I started getting so deep into it, and I kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And even now, I'm still getting deeper and deeper. I've been doing this for 30 years, right? I'm still learning stuff. I'm still reading books, but the books that I'm reading are getting more and more technical. And the older ones, the lower level ones, I'm going, oh, that's wrong. Oh, that's not right at all. I'm able to pick things up now that, oh, that's some thumb rule that some dude made up 30 years ago that is not even anywhere near embedded in truth. It was just coincidence. And I know why that thumb rule is there now, right? So there's a lot of stuff that has really come out over the years. And going to college helped a ton, because when I would take like my physics classes, I have a degree in physics now. But I learned things in physics. I'm like, oh, that's why this does that, right? That's why it does it. And um, um, I was an electrician in the Navy, and so I knew about motors and generators. And when I was taking those classes and I was learning about it in the Navy, I'd go, oh, this is why the alternator does this. This is why this started. This is why, And then I ran nuclear reactors in the Navy, and so they made us learn about instrumentation. How do gauges work? How do, um, you know, sensors work? And so they taught us about sensors because we had to know how that worked so we could identify if there was a problem or if the indication that we saw even made any sense, right? Like if it said reactor power was 130, you'd be like, oh shit, reactor power is 130, scramble the reactor, pushing the control rods or whatever. And that could be the wrong answer because that gauge could be wrong. So they taught you how all that stuff worked, and so you'd have to think, so you go, oh shit, your brain would go, that's not even possible. There's no way, right? You go, oh wait, that's not right. I can verify that by checking these other two gauges. Yep, okay. Definitely is not the case, right? And then I can identify, okay, that's wrong because of, or that gauge or that sensor sees that because of, and find the source. And so they drilled in us how sensors and gauges and all that shit function and all that. So that was really, really helpful. And so I always say an education is extremely helpful in this. And it may not even be an education in racing cars or in engines, but physics and electrical theory, thermodynamics, heat transfer, chemistry, all those things are in engines, all of them. And every one of those topics has helped me understand engines even in a much more specific and defined way, so that when I hit that plus key, I know to expect ringlands. That's a joke. As flat, deadpan as I can say it. No, but so that when I put in so many degrees, or even better yet, when I look at an engine, I tuned a VQ once, a VQ 35. I never tuned before at this time. So this was probably 2010, maybe. I think it's 2010. I never tuned a VQ on a standalone before, and I tuned so little of them on factory ECUs that I didn't even remember what the factory time map looked like. So I said, send me a picture of the heads of the chambers, and then send me the dimension of the engine. So I went through all the dimensions, and I calculated what I thought the ignition timing should be on that engine. And then I built that timing map and put it in his Haltech for him that he put, and he fired this engine and broke the engine on. He showed it for the dyno tune. I was within 2 degrees on almost everything. I think in power it was 3 degrees. I had to add 3 degrees from what my initial estimate was. But I was within a couple degrees on the entire time map of being peak torque or being just perfect for everything. And that was just by knowing how a Penroof 4-valve per cylinder head with this shape intake runner charges a cylinder of this geometry with a rod ratio of this and a bore stroke ratio of that. All that stuff made me make this time map that was within a few degrees from when I finally did the actual dyno tune. So that's the kind of stuff that as you get deeper into it, you can do. And a lot of that was just intuition based on the geometry. Like I said, oh, well, this bore stroke ratio is going to like more timing than these other engines. Oh, this rod ratio and this whatever is typically like this engine. So that means that with this, and then with a faster burning head, my cruise timing is going to be around 30-something degrees. Okay, my power timing is going to be, around 8 degrees here, and the ramp is not going to be nearly as steep as, say, a Subaru because the bore is smaller and the stroke is longer, so it's going to have a flatter timing curve. It's going to have, I know the rod ratio is better, so it's not going to have a ramp like the Subaru's going to have. It's like more like an Evo or more like a Honda. And so I did it all based on that stuff and the similarities in geometry, and like I said, it was within a few degrees. So you could definitely do that kind of stuff with enough exposure to it. All right, I'm going to go change the mass airflow sensor. And I don't know about I'm going to ask about O2 sensor. I see an O2 sensor there. I don't have a wrench for it. I'm supposed to use my teeth or something? I don't know. But wish I could tune your Haltech. I can tune your Haltech. I'm going to bitch about it a lot because it's a Haltech, but I can tune your Haltech. I'm sure you have TeamViewer, right? I can remote in that shit. I've tuned plenty of cars remotely. It isn't ideal because you're depriving your car of my other senses. You know, I can't smell it, feel it, hear it when I'm tuning via the internet. And there's a lot of mistakes that people have made on installs, or components that are about to take a shit in the car, or whatever, that I've caught just by the way the car sounds or feels or smells. So obviously I don't get that, but you know, when it comes to looking at numbers on a screen, I can look at numbers on the screen with the best of them. So, all right, I'm gonna go work on this car, and I'm gonna go home. So, if there's no more questions, anything I can cover for you, then I'm gonna call this done. And don't forget, please come by the Discord. And if you want to learn more tuning stuff, you got to pay the subscription. But it's the cheapest tuning subscription of anything you will ever see in your life. It's probably underpriced, considering that you get access to me most hours of the day, and with pretty quick turnaround and replies, and also the wealth of knowledge of all the other guys in there. The lesson modules I already have up, and then all the resources and stuff that we have, as well as just the funny shit that we say and do. So please feel free to come by there, and I think that's it. Appreciate y'all stopping by. Hope you have a good day, and hopefully I'll see you guys again in the next one. Oh yeah, thumbs up, like, subscribe, all the other crap I'm supposed to say every video, but I never do. How do I find the Discord? Man, does this thing stop? If you go to my website, getadomtune.com, click on Web Store, the subscription section has the link to the Discord in it. Alternatively, you can email me, Dominic@getadomtune.com, and I can send it to you. And it might even be accessible through the search thing. It's what is it? Gaming and Tuning with Dom, I think is what it's called. Actually, hold on a second. Let's see. Can I open this computer? Might be able to post a link right here in chat. One second. What is going on here? It says I'm here. Here we go. Here we go. 1 second. Let me send it to you. New site, include that stuff. I mean, it's on the current site, right? But yeah, I guess on the front page we could do that. But that requires me to get a site. So, anyways, that's Discord invite. Feel free to come and say hi. I'm sure the bots will find that, and I'll have to fucking ban a bunch of people. But you know, otherwise, I think we're pretty good.